As a homemaker, do you often find yourself feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and stretched too thin? Endless tasks and responsibilities can take a toll on your mental and emotional well-being, especially when you are a homesteader too. But it doesn't have to be that way. With the right time management hacks, you can create a stress-free home environment and achieve peace of mind. In this episode, I will share with you 5 practical, effective tips. By the end, you'll have a roadmap for taking control of your day and simplifying your space so you can enjoy a more peaceful and fulfilling life as a homemaker, a grower, a homesteader, and all of the things. Let's get growing. Hello, and welcome to the Pray Just Plant podcast, the show that talks about growing a garden, a homestead, a healthy family, and most importantly, growing closer to God. I'm your host, Crystal Media, owner of the Red Ridge Farm Homestead, where our mission is to help women of faith find the courage to grow healthy food for their family while building a closer relationship with our Lord and Savior. If that's you, don't let the world hold you back. Pray, just plant. Hello, fellow growers, and welcome to the Pray Just Plant podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Media, and today in Season 12, Episode 1, yes, we're on to a new season. We're on to a new season in the world. It is fall here in Wyoming, so it's a new season here on the podcast. We're going to be talking about homemaking and how you can remove some stress, how I'm going to share with you some very practical tips about not only just homemaking, but I think in general, just managing things. I think we as homesteaders and wives and homemakers and all of the list of things, the many hats that we have, we're managers. We have to manage our time. We have to manage the things that need to get done. We have to manage our homes. We have to manage all the things that our kids are going to and the meal plan and all the things. There's lots of things that we manage. So today I want to share with you some tips about ways that can help you manage more or take and build a little management into what you're already doing, especially in the home. And this episode, if you're following along with the Purposeful Growing Journey, this episode is going to be in the Purposeful Home area. What is the Purposeful Growing Journey? Well, this is a journey of about 6 stages that I have seen in my own personal growing journey of starting to grow my own food and in others as well. And I've put them in an order of, I think, importance a little bit, but also in where you should start. When you want to start growing your own food, where should you start? And the first stage is the just grow stage, where you're making your goals or you are finding out or seeing if the growing journey or the growing life is for you. Is it something that you really crave? And then there's the purposeful kitchen, where I believe that all homesteaders should start is in the kitchen, and you can start in the kitchen without land, without animals, without even growing a garden. You can start changing your mindset in the kitchen. You could start buying from your local farmers market. You can start learning to preserve food. You can start learning to do the end goal first, right? Because the purpose of growing our own food, the purpose of creating a homestead and all the things is to provide healthy food for our family. And I think sometimes on a growing journey, we skip this part. We just skip right into the growing. But I think this is an essential part. Also, all these stages can kind of be intertwined as well. They don't have to be, this is step 1, step 2, step 3. This is kind of just what you are learning and where you want to expand. So the next is the purposeful home. And that's what we're talking about today. The next is the purposeful garden, the purposeful homestead, and the purposeful life. So if you're looking to figure out where you are on this purposeful growing journey, go to a webpage that I'll put in the description below that will break that all down. And if you want to dive into any of those stages, like you want to dive into the kitchen, I have some tips there as well on, what things you need to be learning in that stage and what will show that you're ready to go to the next stage or you're ready to add some things from different stages. And also it guides you along this path so that you can really dive in and take hold of your own purposeful growing journey. Building a roadmap, taking control, and putting a little bit of management hacks into our home, into our environment, into all the things we have to manage so that we can relieve overwhelm, relieve stress, and we can feel that we're not stretched so thin. Now, probably you're thinking, oh, she's going to talk about a planner, or she's going to talk about, bullet journaling. Yes, I love bullet journaling. This is something that I've been getting into. it really does help. But these are things that you could be doing inside your planner or inside your bullet journal, or that you could be doing when you're sitting down to make a plan. These are things that'll help you move forward with them. And especially when you have a to-do list that's probably 25 items long and you just don't know where to start. That's where the overwhelm comes from, doesn't it? It's just like, I want to get all this done. These are all the things I have to get done. Plus there's a few things that, I don't want to forget them on there, right? But how do we manage that big long list? How do we manage all of those things that feel like a weight on our shoulders all of the time? Well, my first tip for you is to prioritize your tasks. One of the most challenging aspects of homemaking is knowing where to begin when it comes to managing your time efficiently. We might have a long list of tasks, like I mentioned, that need to get done, but not all of them are equally important or urgent. Maybe you have on your list, like you have on mine, that I need to get out there and fix up some few spots on our siding before winter comes. Well, that's been on my list for months, but it wasn't a priority. It wasn't something I needed to do right now because it was spring and it was summer and it wasn't a priority. But now that it's fall and winter is coming and I want to make sure that my siding doesn't deteriorate, I need to move that to the top of the list, don't I? So that's where this prioritizing your task comes in. It's so that you can make the most of your time and you can avoid feeling that overwhelm. When I was in the spring and the summer, there were other things pulling at my attention, and I knew that thing was on my list and I knew that I would get to it sometime. But because I knew that it wasn't a priority yet, I could let go of it, and that can relieve some of that overwhelm. To start prioritizing, so I'm going to give you some examples of how you could be doing this. You need to identify which tasks are most urgent and which ones can wait. This can seem overwhelming sometimes too, but what is something that you feel is burning? Like the big huge laundry pile on top of your bed and you can't even go to bed because it's there, it's present, it is in your way. That can become a priority, can't it? Now, you can easily say, well, I'll just put it in a basket and put it off the side and not handle it and just deal with it that way if there's something else that is more prevalent. But then you know that you are not shirking your duties. You're not saying, oh, I'm putting this off because I'm lazy and I just don't want to fold my laundry. No, you're saying, I can't do this because I need to make sure that I get all the peppers that I just picked out of my garden preserved, because that is something that's really important. Those peppers are going to mold and go to the chickens if I don't do this. So which one's more important? They're both important. I mean, the laundry is laying right in the middle of your bed, right? And sleep is important. But which one needs to be done so that you can feel whole, that you can take some stress away? The peppers need to be done. And maybe the laundry needs to be put to the side. Or maybe you can do another hack that I'm going to share with you. But it's important that you find those priorities. It's also important to consider the long-term impact of each task. Some tasks might be more time-consuming, but they'll have a bigger impact on your overall goal. So maybe you're looking at this same decision, laundry or preserved peppers, and you're like, well, I can get the peppers started, and when they're in the canner, doing their canner thing, for the 20-30 minutes, during that time, what can I do? I could do the laundry, right? Because that's the next priority that needs to be done. So you can look at the things that may take longer and put those ahead, or you can be like, well, you can think completely reverse. You could be like, well, this laundry will only take me 15 minutes. Let me just get it done, 15 minutes done, and I can be on to preserving my peppers and I can give it my full focus. So when you know how much time a task is going to take, it's going to help you make that prioritizing even easier. But I wanted to mention a book that has really helped me come up with these ideas and also helped me become a manager in a way. And there's skills into managing, there's skills into organizing, there's skills into these tasks that we have to do. There's a skill to getting them done. And a book by David Allen, actually called Getting Things Done, was a great help for me. I've done a blog post and an episode about this book. I will link it below in the show notes and in the description. It helped me figure out how to organize things and how to take this really long list and think of priorities, and also how to unpack them for long term or short term, or when I'm working at my desk, when I'm doing these. Because he suggests when you create your to-do list that you get everything wrote out. He suggests that you write everything not in one long list, but on separate little pieces of paper, or I really love Trello, so I can put them in different little boxes and move them around. But he says to get them in a place where they're movable. Pat Flynn says putting them on Post-it notes is really amazing. And you can get the little tiny Post-it notes if you're worried about stressing about paper. They have the half-size ones where you can just write that one thing on there, and then you can organize. And he suggests putting those things in buckets, because when you have the big long list, you have to read through the list all the time, and that's a waste of time. And it's, to us, it seems like, oh, it's just a simple thing, but you have to read through the whole list and pick one out and put it over. And then you have to read through the whole list, pick one out and put it over. But if you have just a thing on a Post-it note, you can easily move them around and pull them here and there. And he suggests buckets. And he suggests buckets like things that could be done in 5 minutes or 30 seconds, or things that can be done at the computer. So when you're sitting down to balance your checkbook and you are blocking 2 hours or an hour to work on the computer for the day, you can have all your tasks that you need to be getting done on the computer. Maybe you're looking up a trip that you guys are going on, or you're looking and having to buy sheets, or all those things. So when you sit down in front of the computer, you can grab those little 2-second, 3-second, 5-minute things and get them done in front of the computer. Or you're out in the garden, you can have your list that you need to prioritize in the garden. And when you're out there, I really emphasize garden planning is more than just what you should grow and where you should grow it, but it should be a task list. It should be a reminder of, oh, I need to weed the onions this week. But by creating buckets and getting your list organized, and not just make it a big, huge, long list, but prioritizing your tasks and also putting them with like things, is going to help take away some stress and anxiety. And it's also going to save you time, because you're not going to be reading that whole list all of the time. In fact, inside my bullet journal, and I've talked about this before, with vocations, I write out my tasks by vocation. And what that means is the things God has been calling me to do. He's called me to be a Christian. He's called me to be his daughter. So what are the things that I need to do in that area? He has called me to be a wife, a mother. What are the things that I need to do in that area? He's called me to be an educator and teach you guys about homesteading and growing and teaching you about him. So that's my educator bucket. So what are some things that I could be doing there? Some goals that I might have, or some tasks that needs to get done. Dive into that book. Getting Things Done by David Allen is a great read, and it also is so enlightening to help manage. And a lot of these tips that I'm bringing to you come from that book. So our next tip that I kind of alluded to before was delegate where possible. You are ahead of your family. You have people that you can manage. And it could be people in your own home. It could be, getting the kids to help with the laundry. Maybe it's their laundry sitting on your bed and you get them to fold it so that you can move on to the peppers. Or it's bringing in extra help. I see this a lot in homesteading things. Yes, I could put in my fence, but wouldn't it be nice to hire somebody to put in all the posts for me, and then I can do the rest? By delegating, even to your husband or to other people, or even delegating tasks to yourself later, delegating is important. Because in a family, we are a family, right? Everybody should be working together. It should not be just one person doing all of the things, especially kids. Kids need to learn how to do their own laundry and cook and clean. They're going to be out on their own. I think the hardest thing is us as parents, I'm facing this right now, is letting go. But that is our purpose. Our purpose is to mold and to cultivate these little hearts and minds and to bring them into the world and let them go out and do what God asked them to do. God has a journey and a plan for them that is completely separate from you. And you may, I'm talking about myself here a lot, you may want to hold those ties really tight in your hand, but you can't. They're going to go out and do what God wants them to do. We have to let go. That's our part of the journey. So we have to teach them. That's how we can feel good about letting them go out there, is because they know how to do their laundry. They know how to cook for themselves. So they're not going to go hungry. They know how to work. They know how to take care of the things that need to be taken care of, because you've taught them and you've delegated some of the tasks that weigh on your shoulders to them. Because responsibility is a biggest thing that we can give to our children, the responsibility of taking care of you, because they see you working really, really hard to get the dishes done, to do the laundry, to preserve the peppers, and to grow this and to grow that, because they know you're doing it for them, and they see that responsibility that you are taking over with. And when you give that responsibility to them, their heart feels. They know that they are being a important and useful person. And that makes them feel so good and can give them such confidence beyond belief. Yes, simply asking them to do the laundry, asking them to take some of your tasks off of your shoulders can help them build confidence in themselves. So delegate those tasks to them. Help teach your kids responsibility and give them confidence in themselves. I do want to say here that delegating tasks doesn't mean you're shirking your responsibilities. Sometimes we feel that, don't we? That if you don't load the dishwasher, it's not going to be loaded just right, and you're shirking your responsibility of doing it. But you need to remind yourself that it means you're being smart about how you use your time and energy. We only have one cup to fill up. We only have our energy, and we can't just keep putting it out there and out there. It's going to wither away, and we can only refill it once a day when we sleep. So we need to be able to delegate so that we can have time to spend time with our families, to also nurture and develop our families, especially continue to nurture and develop our relationships with our husbands and our relationship with God. But by delegating where possible, you can select realistic expectations for yourself, and you'll be able to focus on tasks that are the most important and delegate the rest to others. This will help you feel more in control of your day and reduce your stress and anxiety. So the two ways that you can delegate is to someone else in your family. It could be to someone that you might hire, or it could be just to your future self. You can say this thing, like with the prioritizing, this thing is important, but it's not as important that I need to do it today. I need to delegate it to Tuesday, because that's the day that I know I can get it done. I'm going to continue to give you a few more tips and hacks on management, especially for a homemaker and a homesteader, in just a moment. But now it is time for the Red Ridge Farm tips and tricks. This is where I bring to you a seasonal tip that I'm using right here, right now on Red Ridge Farm to help you in your growing journey. This week's tip is brought to you by the Planning Beyond the Harvest handbook. This handbook was designed to help you get your harvest onto your family's plates. We grow all this delicious food, and sometimes in the garden planning, we forget about the harvest and beyond the harvest. This workbook will walk you through the 5 steps that I use to get beyond the harvest. You can grab your copy at redridgefarm.org/resources. My tip for you this week is about your chickens. Have you thought about them lately? They're probably molting. Molting is when your chickens are preparing for winter. And it seems kind of weird that they're preparing right now. It's cold outside. But during this season, they're going to need a little extra care from you. 1, molting causes stress, and you don't want to be marching into your coop and causing more stress with loud noises and racket like that. Another thing is you need to be maybe increasing their feed, not amount, but the amount of protein in their feed. This is a great time to be feeding some of your fat cracklings if you render your own lard, or to throw in a few mealworms just to increase your chicken's protein. Also, during this time, you're going to expect less eggs because they're going to be putting more of their energy into growing new feathers so that they can stay warm this winter. Now, don't worry. You don't need to go out there and make them a coat. Those feathers are going to grow back in. You just need to give them a little loving care and be a little respectful of their stress levels during this time, and those feathers will grow back just fine. The next hack I have for you for time management, or managing your household, or managing your life as a homemaker, a homesteader, and all of the things, is to set realistic expectations. I've done this. I've sat down in front of my bullet journal the night before, and I have filled in a long list of things that I expect to get done the next day. And sadly, they do not get done because that list was way too long. And I even put things on there that were not in my control. Things like what my husband does and what my kids do, because I just feel like I gotta manage everything. But you don't. You just need to manage the things that are present to you. So you need to set realistic expectations for yourself. It's important to remember that you are only human and can only do so much in a day. Be kind to yourself and think about who you are. If it's Friday and you've already had a really long week, make that to-do list even a little bit shorter and make the meal that you're going to make that night something that can be easy and quickly done because you know you're low on energy. Be realistic with what you have to manage and be okay with it. Be okay that you're only going to get 5 things done, but guess what? You got 5 things done. And not only that, you ran to town and you did 10 more other things while you were in town. I do this every week. Monday is my go to town day. And Sunday, I'm feeling relaxed after Saturday and Sunday. I'm feeling so relaxed. I'm like, okay, let's make the list for Monday. What am I going to do on Monday? And that list could be almost as long as my arm because I'm feeling relaxed. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can get that done. Oh yeah, I can get that done. I've got plenty of energy. But then Monday comes and we have school. We have homeschooled stuff to get done. We have the trip to town to get done. And I look at my list and I'm like, wow, I didn't get anything done but the things that normally happen every Monday. Yes, I was not realistic. I was not realistic with those expectations. So this week, I sat down on Sunday. I actually wrote down going to town. So I wrote town and I wrote down the 6 things that I was going to do in town. And it filled up my list. It made things. So when I sat down and I was prioritizing and making my list of the exact things that I needed to do, it helped me set realistic expectations because I could see, oh wow, this big chunk of time, look at all the things I have to get done in town. I can't do a whole bunch of things. I need to be realistic. I need to be realistic with my time. So by managing things and making sure you're putting all the things that you're going to do down, if you're making a list or you're bullet journaling, will help you see how much you really do and that you need to have that realistic expectation of seeing that one, you do more than you think you do, and that when it comes to not marking stuff off, we need to always stop and say, wait a minute, look at the things that I did get marked off. Look how many they are. And you need to be proud of yourself. With that realistic expectations, you need to be able to say to yourself, I did a good job, or I didn't do a good job. I sat down and watched Jane Austen movies for 6 hours. That's the other part of being realistic, isn't it? You have to look at what really happened and you have to be able to expect the results that are going to happen from that. You can't be hard on yourself when you have 20 things done and only 2 not marked off. You can't be hard on yourself with those 2 not marked off. You did a good job. So by being realistic with not only your expectations, but being realistic with what you can handle in a day, or being realistic with just writing down all the things you really do in a day. The next thing is to take breaks and practice self-care. Now, I mentioned that sitting down for 2 to 6 hours watching Jane Austen movies. Yeah, that was a little extreme, but you do need to take breaks and practice self-care. You do need to take care of yourself. I was listening to a podcast. It was a homeschooling podcast by Sarah. Oh my goodness, I will have to look up her name for you. I cannot come up with it. But she was talking about how, in a way, setting up realistic expectations, but she was also talking about how we as mothers, especially as the person in the head of the homeschool, we need to fill our cup. We can't give to others without filling our cup first. She made examples to a course, like we were on the airplane and there's turbulence and the air things pop down. You need to put the oxygen on yourself first so that you can help your kids. If you put them on the kids first, then and not get it on your own, then they may be without you. So you need to think about that as well. And she went further to mention a few instances in the Bible where Jesus needed something first for his miracles to come about. Now, he probably didn't need them, but it was necessary for him to perform these miracles. And the one that she spoke of was, I think it's Sarah Mackenzie. One that she spoke of was when Jesus turned the water into wine. Now, he didn't just say, okay, here's a bunch of wine and these jars just filled up with wine. No, he said, fill up the jars with water, and then he turned the water into wine. So if we look at ourselves, like at our energy, and we only have a half jar of water, how can we turn that half jar of water into a full jar of wine when it's not even full? So we have to do the work to fill up that water. And I'm thinking that water is like our energy, right? Or our knowledge as well. Just filling up who we are by reading good books and spending time with loved ones, the things that bring energy into you. We have to do those things so that we can fill that jar all the way to the top, and then we can slowly turn that jar and spill it out, because the things that spill over is what we can give to others. And if we're not even full, how can we spill over and give things to others? The same thing goes with the feeding. All the times that Jesus fed the thousands, multiple thousands. One time he even fed 5,000 people at once. Why was that so important to him? He knew that if he didn't fill them up, especially their stomachs, that would be a distraction. That would be something that would pull them away from the words he wanted to teach them, from the things he wanted to express with them. The same for us. We can't go about our day and not eat breakfast. We can't go about our day and still do all the things on our list and not spend time, just a little bit time, taking care of ourselves, brushing our teeth, brushing our hair, doing those things so that when we go to town, we feel good and our kids can see that. Or we go and spend some time reading a good book. Maybe it's not very long, and spend some time in the Word, of course. But all of that will build ourselves up and will reduce those distractions. When we feed ourselves, when we feed our soul, when we feed ourselves, like actually eat breakfast or eat lunch and don't skip it because we got so many other things to do, we will have more energy to do the things that we want to do. And we can prevent burnout and keep motivated in the long run. When I talk about practicing self-care, I'm talking about truly taking care of yourself. You are the one person, and I'm talking about this to myself as well. You're the one person that your kids and your husband look to. And if you are sick or you are having trouble with low iron like myself, and you're not making that a priority to heal yourself and heal those things in you, you cannot take care of your family or your household or a homestead to your fullest. You just can't. And I've had this shown to me right in my face. So self-care is important. Take care of yourself. And speaking of, it is now time for the Growing with God segment where you and I dive into the Bible and create a lasting relationship with our Lord and Savior. Today we're going to be continuing our venture into Hebrews 11. We're going to be reading Hebrews 11 verses 24 through 26. Now, if you'd like to go back and get all the other segments on this study of faith in action, be sure to look in season 11. They're going to be in the longer ones that have the full blog. They're going to be in season 9, season 10, and season 11. This has been a huge study that we have been doing together. It is only one chapter, but I think there's so much information in this chapter, especially when we go back and listen to what actually happened and how God molded these people and how they stepped out in faith and took action on their faith journey, and that we can take an example of that. I'm also working to bring a few of these segments together. I already have segment 1 and 2, or part 1, part 2 of this series out, and each of them include 3 segments, and I'm right about to record the intro for the next one, so it should be next week that the next segment will be coming out, and it will be with 7, 8, and 9. So that will get you all the way up to Hebrews 11, 20 through 21, so that you can maybe join me in the Bible study that I am creating. So let's dive in. So we're in Hebrews 11, 24 through 26. If you'd like to read along with me, I'm reading out of the NIV translation. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. So we've had other people, Abraham, Noah, in previous verses of Hebrews 11 talk about how they were looking ahead to heaven's reward. So let's go back to Exodus 2, 11 through 26 and read this story about Moses. I personally always thought that the reason he chose to leave the Pharaoh's household was because he did feel sorry for the Israelites and he killed someone, and I thought it was because of his killing that he left. But let's read that again and look at it from this point of view that Paul is trying to show us. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as a greater value than the treasures of Egypt. One day, after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people, so he was connecting to his own people. Looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day, he went out and saw 2 Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong. Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew? So he wanted to spend time with his fellow people instead of spend time in the castle or in the wherever the Pharaoh lived. I don't know if it was called a castle. But the man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "What I did must have become known." When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the trough to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to the rescue and watered their flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." "And where is he?" Reuel asked his daughters. "Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat." Moses agreed to stay with the man, who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." During the long period, the king of Egypt died. The Egyptians groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cries for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groans, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. So we have the short little story up above this, but Moses flees to Midian. We have, though, a few of those verses that says he went out to where his own people were. He connected with his own people. He connected so much to his own people that he went against an Egyptian and killed him. Now, I always thought that, this was the reason he ran, like I said before, was because people found out about this. In a way, it was because Pharaoh wanted to kill him because of what he did, but we also see that he connected with the Hebrew people. He wanted to connect with them, and he saw them as a greater value. He didn't spend as much time as when he got older in the palace of the Pharaoh. He spent his time with his people. They still saw him as an opposition, but if we look at how he called his son, the name of his son, Gershom, "I've become a foreigner in a foreign land." You wonder, though, is he talking about Midian as the foreign land? Because here he's developing a family. Here he's growing a family. Or was he talking about his self in the palace? Was he a foreigner in that foreign land of the palace? And was he wanting to let go of that part of who he was when he was in Midian? Midian is also a place of God. They are God's people. They knew of God, of the one God. So he would start learning about God here in Midian. Probably didn't learn so much about God in the Pharaoh's household, but he did here in Midian. He learned about God. So when God came to speak to him out of the burning bush, he knew who God was. So this was a plan of his. So now we get into 25. It says that God was concerned, and in a way you can see, if you've heard the story Moses is about to go through another trial, another test. And now that he knows God a little more deeply, he's going to be able to go into that foreign land and be glad that he was a foreigner. So let's look at Hebrews 11 again and read it again, so that we can get our minds wrapped around what Moses did. By faith, I'm reading 24 through 26. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as a greater value than the treasures of Egypt because he was looking ahead to his reward. And I think this verse also goes into a little bit more about Moses' story, about when he goes and he's actually in the Pharaoh's presence and he has to be separate. He says, "I am a Hebrew." He does not say that he is the Pharaoh's daughter. He does not say that he knows the Pharaoh. So he knew him, but he said when he was standing in front of him that I am separate. I am of God, and I am here on Israelites, the Hebrews' behalf. I am not here to be your friend, to be your brother again. I'm not here to be that. I am not here to be with you. I am here to stand with God. So I think this really ties into when we're thinking about separation and a little bit of our past and our future with God. We can think about Matthew 6 and also in Luke 16:13. But in Matthew 6, I want to read Matthew 6:19 through 24. Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So we can see this in our own lives, right? We can see this separation of that we can't have two masters. And Moses was the same. He could not have two masters. He could not be a son of Pharaoh in completion and be guided by God. Yes, God used the knowledge that Moses learned in the home of the Pharaoh. He was to be separate. He was to choose between the two. And he chose to store up treasures in heaven. He chose to do what God asked him to do. And of course, if you read where God comes to him in the burning bush, he's a little doubtful that he can do this. He's not a great speaker, he says, or I can't go back to that home. They might kill me because of the things that I've done. And God said, no, I have a purpose for you. And that is to free the Israelites from the Pharaoh's hold. And Moses chose to leave behind his stored up treasures on earth. He even goes further to leave his son and his family and go back and follow what God says, because he cannot have two masters. And we can take this into our own lives as well. When we commit ourselves to God, when we believe in Jesus Christ, that he came, that he lived, that he died on the cross to cover your sin, when we believe that, we are choosing a new master. We are choosing one not of this world. We are choosing one that cannot be destroyed by moths and vermin. We are choosing a master that cannot be taken away by thieves and stolen. He is in our hearts. He is there inside of us. And we are even given the Holy Spirit. It says in Matthew 6:22, that the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your body will be full of light. So when we choose to put our eyes on God, when we choose to bring his words into our heart and fill ourselves, because that's a way we can look on God, right? We can read the Bible, and then our whole body will be full of light. If your eyes are unhealthy, so we're not looking at the Bible, we're not looking at God, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? So when we don't focus on the Lord and we look on the world, the worldly things, and that's where Moses had to make that choice. He had the worldly things of, he was a Pharaoh's daughter's son. He was also a Hebrew and was an Israelite, and he tried to get into that area, and he even went to Midian and found a wife and had children and learned about God. Through all of that, he chose God. He chose the master of light instead of darkness. He could have focused on all those things. As it says in Hebrews, he regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as a greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. So I want you to think about this week. How are you building up your treasures in heaven? How are you having a good eye looking onto the Lord, looking into his words? How are you avoiding serving two masters? Yes, money can be a master, but another master can be anything that you serve besides God. We're talking about idols here, right? So what things are holding you back? What things are causing a turmoil inside of you that is not necessarily pulling you away from God, because God will always be with you. But what is it that's helping you and discouraging you from being in the Bible? What is discouraging you and holding you back? Is it a mindset that you believe you're not truly saved? Or is it you think you're so busy and you just have to take care of this and this and this, and you just don't have time for God to give him all the attention you need? But he only asks for moments. He only asks for you to take a little bit of time. He only asks for you to learn more about him, to build a relationship with him, because the last thing he wants for you is to have that turmoil inside of you. He wants you to let go of that other master, and you have already chose him. If you believe in him, you have already chose him, and he just wants to guide you through that so that you can guard yourself from serving two masters. So now we're on to our last tip. So I hope this episode has been really helpful in helping you manage your time and manage yourself as well. Take care of yourself and think about prioritizing your tasks and delegating your tasks and being realistic, right? Being realistic with ourselves and our tasks as well. The next is focus on what matters most. Now this seems kind of like you're doing the prioritizing again, but I think this goes a little bit further. It's easy to get lost in the daily tasks of homemaking and feeling overwhelmed by the endless to-do list. However, if we don't take the time to focus on what matters most, we risk getting caught up in the minutia and losing sight of our goals. This is where you need to make those goals. Why are you doing this? And why are you doing that? So that when we have a goal or something that we can move towards, we can really help prioritize our list, right? This means taking a step back and evaluating what's necessary for your family's well-being and what can wait. By focusing on what matters most, we can reduce stress and avoid feeling pulled in too many directions. And we can do this by making a daily schedule or a weekly schedule that includes time for the self-care that I mentioned and family time, what fills you up, and work, of course. But we have to set the times for those. By organizing our time, we can ensure that we're giving enough attention to each area of our lives and not neglecting anything. That's where it comes back to those vocations. And I'd love for you to dive into the episode about vocations and how you can develop your own. When we decide and we find those vocations that we are pulled to, then we can prioritize even further. We can say, yes, I am a daughter of God. That means I need to take care of myself, and it's okay to take care of myself. I am a mother and a wife. I need to do these things to take care of my husband and my children. I am a homemaker. Not only do I need to do things that take care of my husband and my kids' emotions, I need to do things that will take care of their everyday things, like having clean clothes and eating off clean dishes and those types of things. I am also a homesteader, so I have to take time out of my day to go do chores and go milk my goats, which I need to do in the next little bit, and take time to work in the garden. And I need to take time to also be an educator. God has called me and asked me to be an educator, to teach others about growing their own food and growing closer to Him. So by making a schedule of when I'm going to be working on those different things and realizing, well, oh my goodness, I have not worked on my relationship with my husband in a few weeks, or we haven't gone on a date, or we haven't had our relationship meeting, or if you do those, I don't know. That needs to be a priority. And the best way to find these is to pray about them, because all of these are God's calling, but also to just making maybe a block schedule or a weekly schedule. What I did this quarter in my bullet journal is I have a spread and it has a weekly view and it has the times put out. So I have sleep labeled because that's important, getting enough sleep. So I have a bedtime labeled. I have a get up time labeled. I have when I'm going to come to you and work with you. And I have when school time is and when we're going to work on homestead projects and when we're going to be doing family time and those type of things. And they're just estimates, but that gives me a framework. So you can give yourself a schedule. It doesn't have to be like 9:15, I'm going to be doing this, but it could be more of a block schedule. Like, for example, on today, let's see, I'm recording today, so Tuesday, I have from 12 a.m. to the 6 a.m. I'm sleeping. And then from 6 to 7, I'm exercising and spending time with my husband. And from 7, I am here with you. I am recording podcasts. I'm editing blog posts. I'm working on masterclasses and other things for you guys. And then I'll have a little snippet in there, about a half an hour, that it's me doing my chores outside, milking my goats in the morning, making sure they're prepared for the day, coming in, eating my breakfast, making sure that I get my breakfast and the kids get their breakfast. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, I have a block for homeschooling. This is when I'm going to concentrate my whole time on giving my kids my full attention while they do their schoolwork. And then I have homework again, and I'm going to be doing kind of two things. The kids are going to still be doing school, but I'm going to be not as focused. I'm going to be doing the dishes or doing laundry or doing my zone cleaning. Well, I can also be in the same room that they're in and walk back and forth and check on them, make sure they're still working and things. And then I come back from 3 o'clock to 5. Some days it's 4 o'clock to 5. I get to come back and be with you again. I can work on more blog posts and work on more episodes and edit and do all the things as an educator. And then I work my homemaking again. I'm making supper. I'm getting a little bit more cleaning stuff done. And then I have family time blocked in. I'm relaxing. I'm done for the day. If I didn't get this cleaning job done, then that's fine. But right now I'm going to spend some fun time with my kids. I'm going to spend some fun time with my husband. I'm going to let it go and also build myself up, build that self-care well. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm going to sleep because that's when my bedtime is. So I'm going to make sure that I'm getting all the sleep that I need. So by making not only your vocations and making kind of a loose daily or weekly schedule, it's going to help you do all the things and manage all the things, because you can prioritize your self-care. You can prioritize your family time. You can prioritize your work, your homemaking, your homesteading, all of the things. And it will help you do the other tasks, the other hacks that I have for you, where you prioritize not only your time, but your list. What are the things that you can be doing right then? So I have an hour on Tuesday from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock to be with you. What are the most important things that I need to do during that time? What are some things that only take 5-15 minutes to do, so I can just mark them off my list very quickly and I can get to this one very important thing? And the next thing is to take breaks and practice self-care. If you have a long day of lots of things that need to get done, maybe in front of the computer or something, take a 5-10 minute break. Get up. I tell this to my kids all the time. When you're feeling that numbing, especially with schoolwork, if you're feeling that numbing behind the back of your eyes, it's just like, I can't do this any longer. Don't force through it. It will take away from your work. Take 5 minutes, get up, stretch, get that blood running through your body, go outside, smell the fresh air, and then come back, and your brain will be refreshed, your mind will be refreshed, your body will be refreshed, and you'll be able to renew and focus and concentrate again. It's important. So I want to thank you for joining me today in this episode of the Pray Just Plant podcast. And if you're new here, I want to welcome you to the Red Ridge Farm Fellowship of Fellow Growers. Now, if this episode really enticed you and you want to learn more about homemaking and management and all of the things in the Purposeful Growing or the Purposeful Home stage, be sure to go over the Purposeful Growing Journey page and look through the different stages, especially the Purposeful Home stage, and find out more about what you could be working on and what things can help you in this area of your purposeful journey. Again, I want to thank you for joining me, and as always, don't let the world hold you back. Pray, just plant.